Hey y'all, welcome back. It is me, BrittReacts, and today we're going to react to more of Lefties Losing It from skynews.com.au. This is Lefties Losing It. Michelle Obama, is this word whinges on low-rated podcasts? I don't know what that means, but I don't think it's good.
It's time for Lefties Losing It. Let's hear from TDS sufferer and quisling Adam Kinzinger, who spent 4 years crying about January 6th. Remember him? Well, he's now calling for Americans to take to the streets because they are in unbelievably uncharted territory. I don't know about you, but this all sounds a little bit insurrection-y to me.
Listen, we are in unbelievably uncharted territory here. And, we're approaching the point where, honestly, it's like we're all going to have to take to the streets or something.
Spit it out.
Now to the Democrats' latest star, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. She wants you to know that she is a serious lawmaker and she's a black woman.
I want y'all to know that every day that I walk in those halls, regardless of whatever rhetoric they put out about me, I am a very serious lawmaker. At the same time, if you try me, you will find out. I just want to be clear about that because I am truly a black woman at the same time.
Why is she telling us she's a black woman? We can see that. And why should that be contrasted against her being a serious lawmaker? These Democrats are so race obsessed that sometimes they inadvertently are racist against themselves. Now,
all right, okay. The first guy, first of all, it took him forever to spit it out. Second of all, I don't know what he meant by hit the streets, but yeah, sir, like, what do you mean by that? I guess is my, can you elaborate? Because it would assume that you're saying people need to get out, and maybe he means protest. I don't know, which is, there's nothing illegal about protesting, right? Just the act of protesting. Jasmine Crockett, and I will keep this brief because it was brief. I struggle with her. I don't know what that room of people was that she was in, but I saw Al Sharpton standing behind her. And I will say, at the Black Dysphoria, a lot of times we get together and we like to remind each other of just how black we are. It's just a cultural thing. It genuinely is not a racist thing. It's just like camaraderie. I might be a lawmaker, but I'm still like there's something about it that really cannot be understood unless you're in that situation, that I can get how anyone from anywhere else who's listening is like, no, that's unnecessary, but it just is like a thing. It just is. It's like a prideful thing, and I'm not saying things right or wrong with it. I'm just trying my best to explain it, and I'm probably failing, and half of you are probably already going off about racism in the comments, and I'm telling you, like, I do agree here, like, if you're a lawmaker and you're black, why do you need to tell people? Like, we obviously know your job title, and we obviously can see who you are, but I think this woman is met with so much controversial backlash because she is not the most professional. She isn't. She is not the most professional, but neither is our president, if we're going to be 100% honest. Our president does not hold himself to a very professional presentation a lot of the times, a la his Twitter, he's a very petty, and that's just who he is, right? And a lot of people praise him for that. This woman is just being simply who she is. And I think a lot of times women and women of color have to present more palatable to the public to be taken seriously. And this woman has decided she is not going to do that. She is going to speak in the way that she speaks at her family barbecue, the same way on the podium at a press conference. And I think that is what she meant, was like, contrary to what some of y'all believe, you know what I mean? I might talk like this and but I am very seriously passing laws, not making laws, but whatever she said. I'm paraphrasing. And so yes, I do feel like it does feel like you didn't need to say that, but again, we didn't have the context of the room that she was in. She does meet a lot of backlash, and people on all fronts. Black people, young people, old people, white people, Christians, non-Christians have a lot to say about her because of the way that she shows up very unapologetically as herself. She doesn't code switch. She doesn't, put on a face for the sake of her job title. And so for me, things like that, if they're taken out of context, can absolutely feel like race obsessed. But I am here to tell y'all, like, it is just, it's like you go into a black church and you hear stuff like that all the time, and no one's being racist. It's just like, I am proud to be who I am. You know, it's like the same way you can be proud to be a Republican, or you can be proud to be an ice skater, or you can be proud. It's like there's something contextually, I think, is missing for people who just like don't understand that. And I know the other side of it is like, well, we don't shout, I'm proud to be white. Some people do. And so I don't know. I struggle with, I guess, the way it was presented here, but I totally also struggle with her because I just sometimes want her to shut up and do her job in the way, like, I do think she has, she's powerful, but I think sometimes she shoots herself in the foot by showing up on social media in ways that feel unnecessary or childish, and so on and so forth. So I struggle with this woman because it's hard for me to like take her seriously, because I just feel like a lot of times she's being like a petty sorority sister rather than a serious lawmaker. But other people feel like, yeah, finally there's somebody on the other side presenting as they truly are, just like Trump presents as he truly is. Trump doesn't suit up and pretend to be this tight-lipped, politically correct president. So why does everybody else have to do that? And so, you know, it some days I'm like, I get it, and other days I don't. But y'all know me, I'm not someone who's left or right, red or blue, up or down. I am very kind of like right is right and wrong is wrong. So, anywho, I said I was going to keep that short. I did not.
It's obsessed that sometimes they inadvertently are racist against themselves. Now to the woman many Democrats want to see as a presidential candidate, Michelle Obama.
Really?
Here she is on her
We're still talking about
woefully
this?
low-rating podcast, talking about how hard married life is. Well, it is when you're married to Barack.
I think sometimes people who date
She
don't
digs,
realize
y'all.
that,
She digs.
you know, in long-term relationships, you're gonna have deep dips, and you're gonna have
a bad
peaks.
year.
You're gonna have a bad. I tell people, and folks think that this is harsh. It's like you're gonna have a bad decade.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I've been married to my husband for 30 plus years. I mean, the truth is, if you add it all up, even the year if the odds were you're going to be married to your partner for 50 years, and 10 of those years could be bad, you know,
You'd sign up for it.
You'd sign up for it.
No thanks, Michelle. A miserable decade. Think I'll give that a pass. You know, it's not the 1820s anymore. Women can be single nowadays.
Okay. I don't know the ratings of this podcast. I have not watched more than some of the clips I've seen on social media. And if I could be honest, it's just because I'm simply not that interested in it. I am a fan of Michelle Obama as a person, not as Barack Obama's wife. I did the Audible version of her first book. And I was one of those younger black girls. I was in college when Barack got into office, and she was something none of us women that look like me had seen before in that position. And my opinion is that she did as much as she could with grace. She received all the hate and all the awful things that were said about her with grace. That's my opinion. And so as a person, I really like her. I don't know about a president. I know that was a big thing when Barack first left. Everybody's like, Michelle, please run. I don't see that for her, especially if you've like read any of her books. The other thing is Michelle has had this conversation about marriage for years, in interviews about her books, like for years, ever since Barack left the White House. She's always talked about how she's like, I love Barack, but marriage is hard. And I don't know anyone who's truthfully in a marriage that will tell you marriage is not challenging. I'm only almost 3 years into my marriage, and I can tell you that I agree with that sentiment. Do I want to have 10 bad years? No. But you have two people who come from two different families in a world that's throwing everything at you. You add kids, you add bills, you all these things. Every day is not easy. Michelle didn't say marriage was miserable. I just think people, again, contextually, you're going to take from it what you want to take. And if you don't like Michelle Obama, that's going to upset you. Here's the thing that's funny to me. I have seen on the blogs non-stop this interview, but not because of Michelle, because of Tracee Ellis Ross. She has been ripped to shreds because she said in this specific interview, and again, I didn't watch the whole thing, I've seen clips, that she prefers to date younger men. And people have just been very opinionated on that. So it's interesting to me who is interested in what in this interview and what they decide to take from it. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, some people watch that interview and nothing Michelle said bothered them. Everything Tracy said pissed them off. These are the things I'm just like, sometimes I think people just decide they don't like somebody, and everything Michelle Obama says is going to upset you if you stopped or you decided you didn't like Michelle Obama 10, 12 years ago, right? I don't think there's anything wrong with her saying that. What I do think is that she's been going a little bit hard explaining herself a lot lately with the rumors of her and Barack splitting up and her not showing up to events. Sometimes where there's smoke, there is fire. And the fact that she kind of keeps addressing it makes me feel like, Michelle. But I do agree. It is not the 1950s. Women can do what they please. And you know what I mean? I think we're going to get more into that. Y'all love this segment. Everybody's like, I love this Lefties Losing It segment. I don't know how I feel about it. This is my second time reacting to it. I think Rita is very, she's got her biases. She likes who she likes and she doesn't who she doesn't. It's clear who she doesn't, and it's clear what side she's on. So I don't know. I'm just struggling because I feel like she takes some pretty nasty digs. And all I know, all y'all in the comments now saying, so did the Democrats. It's like, okay, but I'm reacting to this right now. Thank you so much.
You know, it's not the 1820s anymore. Women can be single nowadays. Let's hear from a couple of mask-wearing trans activists now. One of them is hailing Satan, while the other is talking about love and tolerance and solidarity. What?
I'll burn in hell. Hell, Satan! You're afraid of authenticity and people being their own true selves? You're afraid of love? You're afraid of solidarity?
Where are they that this is happening?
Crazy. Absolutely crazy.
She's calling others crazy, bless. And the lefties are turning on each other. It seems even members of the LGBTQIA++ community fail to be sufficiently sensitive.
She said that so well. I can never get that out without stumbling like I tripped on a pothole.
Members of the LGBTQIA++ community fail to be sufficiently sensitive to pronoun preferences.
It is one thing to get misgendered by like straight cis people, but it is another thing going into a queer space and getting nothing but misgendered there. Like, that pisses me off so bad. I was at the gay bar last night. The gay bar is always the scene of the crime, okay? And I'm in line waiting for the bathroom, and like there's stalls and there's urinals, right? And like anybody that's using the urinal, I just let them go in front of me, and then I'm waiting for a stall. And some guy comes out and he's like, he says something about the urinals, and he was like, oh, you're waiting for the stall? And I was like, yes, I am. And he was like, and that is a woman's right. What gave him the audacity to say that to me?
Here is a mother who claims that her child told her at the age of 18 months.
What? Girl, what are you mad? Oh, wait. Sorry. No disrespect, because clearly she doesn't want to be gendered as a girl. But I don't even know how to address people, so let's just move on.
Here is a mother who claims that her child told her at the age of 18 months that they're trans.
I have an 18-month-old. He doesn't even speak English. I was just joking about this today. My daughter was getting off first. I'm like, girl, he doesn't even speak our language. How are you letting him upset you? Now you mean to tell me this 18... This is going to get me fired up.
They're trans. They've been trans since birth.
What age do you think most trans kids determine that they're trans?
Violet told us when she was 1.5. She's been telling us since she could speak. So she knew since birth.
And while we're on this issue, there's been more fallout from the UK Supreme Court decision last week, the unanimous landmark ruling that defines what a woman is. And guess what? It's an adult female, as we've always told you. It's a biological female. They have to be born. They can't be made. But not everyone is taking the decision well.
You've probably heard about this Supreme Court's ruling on the definition of the word woman. This will have some real serious implications.
Do you blink?
It will have some consequences. But I want to tell you one thing. They can make their laws. They can specify their definitions. They can take away my rights. But there's one thing that they'll never be able to take from me. And that's who I am. I'm a trans woman, and I'm proud. and they'll never be able to take that from me.
And this next leftist feminist claims that this victory for women's rights is in fact a victory for the patriarchy. This old fool seems to think that women who are well built or who have short hair will be mistaken for men and will have to prove their womanhood. Seriously, that's the argument.
My brain. Okay, wait, I gotta hear this again, because wait, what?
Think that women who are well built or who have short hair will be mistaken for men and will have to prove their womanhood. Seriously, that's the argument. Have a listen.
Please stop talking about this court decision that was made yesterday about the definition of what a woman is and framing it within a victory for a feminist context. It is not. Those people are like leftovers from the 1980s. They are exclusionary feminists. They are nothing to do with the modern feminist movement. And this is absolutely not a victory for women's rights. You realise what you have done. You know, we now all have to prove that we are women in order to get the services that we feel most comfortable in. Technically, I will have to prove that I'm a woman to be able to be searched by a female officer if I'm arrested by the police. I mean, you can say, well, you look like a woman and you sound like a woman, but so do a lot of my trans female friends. And what about my friends who have got polycystic ovary syndrome and are a little bit hairy about the face? What about my friends who are quite tall and well built with square jaws and look a little bit masculine? What about them? This is not a victory for women's rights. This is a victory for the patriarchy.
Yep, that's the argument. That's how desperate and illogical they're getting. That's what they think is a winning argument in this debate. Now let's go to the US and a heartbreaking case of senseless violence and a broken justice system. Carmelo Anthony stabbed to death a 17-year-old boy, Austin Metcalf, at a track meet in Frisco, Texas. Austin died in his twin brother's arms. Afterwards, we had the vile spectacle of people defending this teen killer. People raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for him. He walked free from jail on April 14 after his bond was reduced from $1 million to $250,000. And since then, his family and his representatives have played the victim. Here, a representative, Dominique Alexander, attacks Austin Metcalf's father, the victim's father, Jeff, for attending a press conference held by the Anthony family.
That was disrespectful and just shows you all the character. Who was not invited, he knows that it's inappropriate to be near this family, but he did it. And so I say to people, actions speak louder than words.
Yes, the grieving father being there is apparently a disrespect to the dignity of his son. The father was asked to leave, and guess what? He left. He didn't stab anyone because he was asked to leave. Now, this press conference, we also heard from the accused.
I just want to go on the record and say I have not spoken about this case on my channel, and I'm not going to because of the sensitivity of it and the minors involved. As a mother with 2 children, I wouldn't want to further speculate or sensationalize any harm, any crime, any pain. So I'm going to move on from that. I would ask you to respectfully comment if you're going to, because again, there are children affected by this, and I'm not just talking about the 2 in the incident. I'm talking about the kids who watched it, the kids who are grieving. Like, there is a lot of hurt and pain around this entire situation. So I just wanted to say that I do have a bottom line on this channel and a lot of boundaries for my own mental health, but this whole thing is just really tragically sad.
Mother.
The lies and false accusations
He left. He didn't stab anyone because he was asked to leave. Now, this press conference, we also heard from the accused's mother.
The lies and false accusations that have been said about us, especially over the past week, has been overwhelming.
And then we were back to Dominique Alexander, the family's representative, blaming the school for wanting to expel this thug. And then he unbelievably blamed the weather for what happened that day.
Frisco ISD has notified of their intent to expel Carmelo Anthony from school 1 month before his high school graduation.
Yeah.
That just shows me that Frisco ISD is trying to push off the blame. And what I have not heard the media say, as many media outlets have asked us what went on, I'm trying to find how many of y'all have asked the superintendent or one single board of trustee, why didn't you cancel or postpone? With weather in that magnitude, you couldn't have a track meet in rain or thunderstorm or clouds. Y'all are the media. Ask your journalists, your weather journalists, how the weather was that day and that time. Y'all do that research.
Joining me now is Sky News contributor Kosha Gator. Kosha, this case is incredible. If the races were reversed here, I think the media coverage would be dramatically different. And the manner in which Carmelo Anthony's family is playing the victim, raising money, holding press conferences, I mean, that's quite incredible as well.
It really is. I mean, it's so brazen, this whole flipping of victimhood, and the culture has just turned into this victimhood Olympics, and now you're seeing it in its worst possible place when you've got this just senseless, depraved, heinous act, murder, that was conducted, and even that's being wrapped up along racial lines, which has nothing to do with it. The spokesperson, Dominique Alexander, that they hired.
Okay, again, I'm not going to speak directly on this, but this woman, Kosha, said among racial lines, which has nothing to do with it. But then Rita said, if the races were reversed, this story would be different. So am I the only one that feels there's some contradictory there? Like Rita is basically saying this is a race thing, but Kosha is saying race has nothing to do with it. I also just do want to say the mother of the accused, the suspect, I don't know what's the proper term for someone who, yeah, right, he's accused because he's not been convicted, but he is accused. And I know right. Anyway, she said the media is telling lies about us. I think she was referring to them as the family. I do think that perhaps she has a right to say that as the family. Maybe there are some misrepresentations. I don't know. Maybe there are some misrepresentations in the media about the family that people are saying. Like, I don't know. But I don't know. Okay. This whole thing. Like, I don't know if she was wrong to say that, because a lot of criminals, their families will come out and like be like, but that's not a reflection of who we are. You know what I mean? I think about the gentleman with the whole Idaho college thing. Was it Idaho, Iowa? And his parents, you know, like a lot of these younger people who do these things, their parents are upset. They say things like that. I don't know. I think that one soundbite wasn't the best soundbite of her exuding victimhood. But I don't know. That's just my opinion. Anyway,
he himself has a criminal record. He's a convicted felon from 2011. He's out there with, which has nothing to do with it. The spokesperson, Dominique Alexander, that they hired,
they need to
he himself has a criminal record. He's a convicted felon from 2011. He's out there with some nerve saying the things that he said, kicking out the father, and then the mother wrapping all of that up. Again, no awareness at all, or even acknowledgement of what the actual victim's family is going through. It's beyond me. I thought most things wouldn't shock me anymore, but this one shocks me too.
It really just shows a sickness that exists in America right now with those who are just race obsessed, and they want to look at this through a racial filter, and they just cannot cope with the fact that the victim here happened to be white, the aggressor happened to be black. That shouldn't be the issue. It should be the fact there is a teenage boy who's dead, who died in his twin brother's arms, and he's forgotten whilst the victim is being lionised and hundreds of thousands of dollars being raised for him. Now to more leftist lawlessness, and one of Tim Walz's state employees stands accused of causing around $20,000 in damage, vandalising Teslas. Here he is, filmed, looks like he's keying cars there. There is ample footage of these alleged incidents. Dylan Bryan
Teslas are the most secure cars. Like, they have cameras all over them. And he's out here incriminated the dog with him. Come on,
This is a fiscal policy analyst, a Minnesota state employee. He's been arrested, Kosha, and this comes just a few weeks after we heard Tim Walz, the failed vice presidential candidate, mocking Tesla's share price falling, attacking Elon Musk repeatedly. And to see these acts across the country, people going around vandalising cars belonging to individuals, not just, I'm not advocating for attacking dealerships, but when you're actually attacking the personal property of someone, I mean, really, again, we talked about a sickness that exists. This is
I get this, and especially after watching the clip of Tim Waltz kind of like laughing off what's going on with Elon and Tesla and all the stock. But to title this Tim Waltz employee as if he is like his direct personal assistant is a little like, come on, y'all. Is he an employee of the state that Tim Waltz is? What is he, the governor of? Like, okay, maybe, but is he his direct employee? Like, as if he was instructed to go out and do this? It's like a little bit of a reach. I don't know.
Another example of it.
It is another example, and I think the meta point is that the consequences are just too soft and too weak in culture in general. Decriminalization, selective outrage, letting certain people off the hook based on where they fall. In this case, this policy analyst did get arrested, as you mentioned, so there are some consequences which are necessary to have deterrence. But unless and until we see that much more strongly, unfortunately, I think these acts are only going to continue because people either they can skirt some sort of punishment, or even further, they're actually glorified by a portion of the left, and so they want to do these kinds of things.
Absolutely. We've had a lot of...
I mean, playing devil's advocate here, can't the same be said for all the people who were pardoned from January 6th, or no? That's literally me playing devil's advocate. Like, anyone who did things on that day that were unjust, unconstitutional, dangerous, unsafe, and were punished by law and then pardoned, is that not no, I don't know. Excited to hear your comments on that one, because this is a Lefties losing it video.
Left, and so they want to do these kinds of things.
Absolutely. We've had a lot of Democrat politicians refusing to disavow this sort of violence, and the left
is this considered violence if it's on a car?
Increasingly activist.
I mean, it's ridiculous, but is it
in its behaviour? We saw that throughout the BLM riots, around $2 billion worth of damage, very few consequences and arrests. You compare that to, say, what happened on January 6th and people being in solitary confinement for months. How do you see this issue and how it separates America? Because when people talk about two Americas, I think this is really central to that issue, where people have lost faith in those institutions. They've lost faith in the fact that they're going to have equal justice under the law.
I know, it really does show that to America, that divorce symbolically that's happening gets much more hitting you in your home, on the streets, when it comes down to crime and the actual criminal justice system being fair or not. And when we look at all these cases, whether it's Kyle Rittenhouse or Daniel Penny and all of those, you could see how, had they been tried somewhere else, Kyle Rittenhouse certainly, in a different jury, in a different state, the outcome would have been different. Daniel Penny squeaked by through a hair's breadth. That is very, very scary to a lot of people, that if something, God forbid, were to happen and you find yourself in that situation, if you live in the wrong jury pool, you can't trust the system anymore.
Now, Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, has said that she's going to be treating these cases like domestic terrorism. They're politically motivated acts of violence, so they fit the definition of terrorism. Will that dissuade some of these people from acting out? Because I think part of the reason why we've seen this increase in violence...
Sorry, I know who Kyle Rittenhouse is, but I wanted to just make sure... I just want to make sure.
Is because they watch those BLM riots, they watch those Antifa riots, and really not much happened to those who were guilty of causing enormous damage.
Yeah, and that's the learned behavior. I do think if you make one or two examples of people within the law, it often, and history shows us, it will serve as a deterrent. Whether you look at illegal immigration, different issue, but that sending plane loads of people over to El Salvador is a deterrent for people who don't want to be caught in the net of this administration. And then domestically, it's a bit trickier in terms of which statutes can apply and how far you can push them. But to the extent of the law, the fullest extent of the law, if you prosecute 1, 2, 3 of these folks in the harshest terms that are legally available to you, I do think it'll serve as a deterrent.
I think that's part of the reason we're seeing...
Okay. I'm going to stop this right here because I have one very general question for you all. Is this publication far right news? Is it what was it, alt-right? Like, is this, it feels very biased to me as someone who I feel I can find the good in most things, but I am struggling here because it just, I don't know. I'm struggling, and I'm kind of like losing it, I think, the point, because it's, I don't know. So I'd love to hear from you guys, especially those of you that say you love this segment. Just let me know your opinions. Feel free to respond to anything that I said here, answer any of my questions. I was genuinely asking these questions. Like, this is, again, me trying to understand and be more understanding of all perspectives and thought processes and points of view. As always, keep it cute or put it on mute. If you leave a comment, just make sure it's riddled in kindness and not ugliness, because if it's ugly, it's gotta go. All right. Thank you for watching. Make sure you subscribe to my channel and go and have the day you deserve. Bye.